You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode will be brought to you after these words from our sponsors.
The scars of the Clone Wars still run deep. Rebels and traitors spread death, destruction and suffering across the galaxy.
I'm doing my bit.
I want to make the galaxy safe from rebellion.
But we are united to defend your empire.
I'm doing my bit.
I want to see the galaxy.
We can win this war with your help.
I'm doing my bit. I used to be a farmer, but now I'm a fighter.
Join the Imperial Armed Forces.
I'm doing my bit.
I had no prospects, but now I help build TIE fighters to save lives.
Fight for what is right. Join the Imperial Armed Forces. Would you like to know more?
Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 20 of the Coldfire Chronicles. My name is Adam and I'm your GM for this episode, and I am joined round the table by...
Hi, my name is Mim. I play Lassa, a human sentinel artisan, whose emotional strength is her curiosity, but her emotional weakness is her obsession.
Hi, my name is Ed Fortune. I play the character of Oberon Brick. He is a human hunter-seeker. His emotional strength is justice, and his emotional weakness is cruelty.
Hi, I'm Ross. I'm playing Agatha, a Morailan warrior aggressor, whose emotional strength is his pride, but whose weakness is his anger.
Hi, my name is Mikey. I play Jiren, a Chiss mystic advisor. His emotional strength is his enthusiasm, and his emotional weakness is his recklessness.
And before we get started with today's episode, is there a question from our characters?
Yeah. This is Jiren. As we're landing, I think he leans over to Agatha and says, Agatha, is this the first time you'll have met another Morailan for so long?
Yes, Agatha has not seen a Morailan in several years now. The last time I saw a Morailan, this tattoo, he points to his cheek, the one with the chain that he's got down there.
Mm-hmm.
They marked this on my face. It wasn't what I asked for at the time, but it's probably marked to a lot of people since then where I've come from.
I don't want to press on too much, but what does it mean?
Criminal.
This is going to be great.
We rejoin our heroes on Alpinn in the mining camp, where they are being served tea by a Morailan scholar. And what a lovely way to start the episode.
Thank you. No, that's fine.
Are you sure you don't want any more?
No, I think 3 is enough for me. We should...
It doesn't have any caffeine in it. It's fine if that's what you're worried about. I know it is getting slightly late.
Never really affects me nowadays. We drink a lot of tea. Anyway, we came here, as lovely as the tea is, not to talk about tea, but to tell you a story about where we've been since we met with Thrall.
Vitaara just leans up to where the little floating orb droid is and just pushes a button on one side, and there's now a little red flashing light.
How apprehensive does everybody else get at the little mechanical noise thing with little red flashing light on it?
Jiren doesn't know what it does. He's not a tech guy.
Oberon's seen paparazzi before.
Is this a recording droid?
It is an X7 model multi-purpose scholar droid, and taking voice memos and things is one of the standard functions.
The part of Lassa's like, don't use your real name, Jiren. Bother.
So, are you aware of a ship called the Costa Fabarum?
No.
Right. Thrall sent us to the Costa Fabarum because it was told of a legend, or at least a tale that is told on the highways and byways of the spacefaring pirates of
pirates.
Yeah, of a theft from the Night Sisters, with the pirates being held in chase by Dathomirian force users. Nobody really knew what happened to the Costa Fabarum, but what they did know is a Jedi contingent joined in the freeway fight, and the Costa Fabarum was rumoured, as is quite often in pirate stories, to sail the space lanes as a ghost ship. This is not what has happened.
Lassa looks a little confused. She doesn't really remember anyone telling ghost story ships about any of
nonsense.
this. She's just going to sit back and drink her tea whilst keeping her eyes on you in a very, I'll see where this is going, but I am about to interject if this gets too boring.
So, We were sent to the location that we were believed the Costa Fabarum was, and Thrall's information was, as it quite often is, correct.
That doesn't surprise me.
There were 3 vessels amalgamated into one crashed ship. A light cruiser, which was the pirate ship, a Jedi Star Sprite, and a Dathomirian ship. I forget the type.
It was a Pathfinder.
Was it a Pathfinder? Okay. I imagine you'd be... Yeah, you went on it. I didn't go on it.
Heavily modified, but yes, Pathfinder.
Yeah. Now, when we arrived there, we found a scene of carnage. But this fight, this conflict was hundreds of years ago, so we didn't expect to find anybody living. We did find something moving. There was a resistance to us, an amalgamation of droid parts and living, dead tissue animated.
Oh, that is
unusual.
Yeah.
These things were seemingly controlled by a single consciousness, which was focused in a way to... What is the best way? It wanted to use us as components to expand its creations, if you follow me. In an aggressive way. It was going to render us down into parts.
It was being very defensive of its ship.
Yes.
Aggressively defensive, one might say.
I would say so. It'd be like if you told the droid to fix the ship, but didn't tell it couldn't use human parts as tools. And
Right.
it had nothing else to use.
Yes, that's a good way of saying it. Thank you, Lassa.
The long and the short of it is, I don't mean to be rude, Adrian, long and the short of it is, that horrible monstrosity which was making weird horrible monsters with cybernetic parts that were attacking everybody after this big battle and trying to keep everything ongoing was all powered by this. And she takes the key out the pocket, opens up a chest, flicks it open and points at the thing.
Oh.
It's green.
Oh yes, it's Icor.
Icor?
I don't know how much you know about the Night Sisters of Dathomir.
Assume we know absolutely nothing. Thrall sent us here to you because he said you were very smart about that kind of stuff, and if there was anybody that knew about other ways of the Force, it'd be you. And that you might also share with us not only information about this kind of thing, but also about the whereabouts of my friend's friend, if indeed he did survive the terrible occurrences of the war.
Well, let's start with the orb, shall we?
Alright.
Okay.
Be careful touching it.
As you say that, Agatha, you can feel, if it wasn't for your hand on Pyjack's shoulder, he would have gotten off from the table and started pacing again. You can feel him kind of pushing against this. But I suspect that everybody else is wrapped in discussion with Vitaara and so misses this. But you can definitely feel that he's struggling to stay in his seat and silent.
This conversation has gone a different direction than he wanted it to go to.
Oberon's expecting to be jumped at any moment.
Well, the Night Sisters, not a lot of information remains about them, unfortunately. They were a cult on Dathomir. I think, unfortunately, they no longer exist, which is a shame because they were one of the most interesting sects. But being as secretive as they were, not a lot of information came out. One thing I do know is they were primarily matriarchal society, with the females being indoctrinated into the cult and the males providing basically the heavy body work.
You keep using the word cult, interjects Lasser. Were they bad? Like
No. I'm saying cult as in I use cult in it's an insular society. I'm not using it as a derogative term.
Alright then.
But just that it is an insular society, and cult in a religious sense best fits the description of, because they didn't invite outsiders in.
I see.
So I think cult is the most respectful term for the way that their society worked.
An academic definition of the word cult rather than the common usage of it.
Rather than a derogatory terminology, precisely.
Lasser looks quite smug at having said something vaguely academic.
But their power was tied to their planet. It was tied to Dathomir itself. Primarily, the mists of Dathomir, which is what you're seeing in that orb. Somehow the Night Sisters worked out a way to distill these mists into an ichor, which they could then put into such containers, which allowed them to work their powers outside of Dathomir itself. I mean, it's a peculiar substance, and their beliefs were very heavily tied into life and death, and they could create objects and animation, which, from the tale that you told me, might be a founding part of the things that you saw. Of it is Dathomirian I say miracles is the best way of describing that. It's Dathomirian power.
Yes.
The way that Dathomirian power worked I understand there was some form of animation impetus in that, so that would kind of make sense for the things that you've explained to me, if it used Dathomirian ichor as a base substance.
The creature that was controlling all of the animated antagonists we had, and he pulls into the bag and pulls out the lightsaber, the crystal from this.
Oh.
Stuck right in his head, I think.
Well, that is interesting, because I've never known the two to interact, really. I know that certainly there were Night Sisters that joined outside orders, not Jedi. Those two did not interact very well at all, but other orders they certainly did get involved with. I'm not entirely certain about any interaction with lightsabers, or...
The Jedi that was on the ship was not a Dathomirian.
In which case, I could only imagine that the two were rivals.
When we destroyed the lightsaber crystal, the animating force that called itself Mr. Flesh ceased to be.
Well, as I understand it, kyber crystals, which are the crystals within the lightsabers, they are alive. So perhaps the crystal in and of itself was using its own sentience and the power from the ichor to project itself. I mean, this is purely theoretical, and I have to say I'm so happy that you brought this to me, because I've never seen anything like this before, and I'm finding it absolutely fascinating. I'd be very intrigued to see if any other interactions could be distilled from it.
It can light up a light bulb.
It was malevolent.
Agatha's getting a little apprehensive. His hand on Pyjack's shoulder is still supportive, but at the same time his fingers are just tightening a little bit on Pyjack's shoulder, just because he's getting slightly apprehensive, because her enthusiasm doesn't reflect at all his experience of the object, and he's not sure we're conveying how scary this was.
Okay.
But he doesn't want to necessarily speak up about that yet.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think the same thing. I think this was being used as a power source, and the crystal was the brain, if it were. However, I have touched the ichor orb, and I felt a presence is not the right word. There was no real personality there, but I could still feel that it was female.
I would imagine the ichor itself is almost the distilled essence of Dathomir itself, which is where the Night Sisters drew their power from. So what you're feeling when you're touching that orb, and may I infer that you are in connection with the Force through that description, that you are feeling essentially the force of Dathomir itself.
When you say that the cult of the Night Sisters dealt with death, what do you mean?
They had odd interactions with life and death, and that death didn't necessarily mean an ending. As I understand it, they believed that the dead went back into Dathomir. It didn't join the Force, it rejoined almost the soul of Dathomir itself.
So this is a box of souls?
I think that's a simple way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it's a much more complex. It is the essence of Dathomir.
The whole planet, which is trees, people, everything.
Yeah, trees, people, animals, the wind, the sky, the earth. You could describe it as any of these things, and none of them.
Of which death is a small but, fairly important
Even
aspect
mountains
of it.
die, and I would imagine that is a whole part of this.
It's not a box of souls, it's a box of life.
Okay.
Easier way of... Still simple, but a way to understand.
It's a box of the living force.
It's a box of potential, I think, is the best way of describing it.
Yes, yeah, that is right.
Does it contain the memories of those who have gone before?
Not as far as I'm aware, but then again, I've never particularly studied ichor as a specialisation, and I'm only using very broad terminology from the small fragments of knowledge which have escaped from Dathomir.
I would say no.
So that energy is converted into the mist, which is part of the Force.
Yeah.
So it's a conversion of energy.
I don't think I can answer that. Potentially.
Goes back to the battery theory. It's not so much a battery as it's a source. No, that's a ridiculous thing to say, but it's not so much a battery as a place to draw power from, but not in the same way as a battery.
Oh yeah, certainly you couldn't plug it into something and expect it just to charge it. It needs to have a will behind it, something to make it do what it needs to do.
Needs a conduit that understands it.
Yes, and needs to tell it what it needs to do, what it needs to become. It's potential. It's not just latent energy, it is pure potential distilled down into this marvellous substance.
So someone with a weak interaction with the Force could manipulate the Force because they have this source of power.
Potentially. These things aren't seen very often, especially with the Night Sisters being gone. They dwindle more and more with the passing of time.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there, Oberon. I think if we consider the Force to be like a muscle that you can use, I think anybody who has access to the Force will be able to direct it better, but anybody who doesn't have access to the Force will be affected by this. As we may have seen, one of our crew members touched it and was quite overwhelmed.
Poor Pringle, looked like he'd just come out of a tumble dryer.
Yeah, he's, I imagine he's somewhere around here now, because he's quite taken with the orb.
Would you consider selling it?
We don't know yet.
Because certainly I would be interested, as an object of great religious significance, I would be interested in taking it off your hands.
We're kind of worried about the potential for destruction that it will wreak if it is put into... I'm not suggesting your hands are unsafe, but put into unsafe hands. And we've had a few cups of tea, but we don't really know you, so we don't know.
And certainly,
that is fair.
Having an object like this around, if anything, could attract trouble to you if people knew you had it. Since it's quite rare and a source of potential, is there anything more powerful than absolute potential?
But you do have something we want, and what we want is information, and you are a scholar of the Force.
That is absolutely correct.
So, I would say we'd be very willing to negotiate if you could help us with our problem.
Please, tell me, what is your problem? And I like to talk about my trade. I like to talk about my field of study. I'm a scholar. If I don't talk to people, knowledge dies.
I tell you what, I reckon this is the most I've ever heard a Mirialan actually speak. I mean,
really?
Living with this one, oh aye.
Right.
He has a much more practical effect upon the world, shall we say.
Interesting.
I'm guessing we haven't actually locked eyes at any point in this conversation.
We have not.
We do also have piles of data slates from the Costa Fabar.
Oh, right, we've got some more archaeological things that might be interesting to you.
I have a suggestion, but I'll get to it in a second.
Pyjack has questions.
We all look at the vibrating Pyjack. You're right, Duran. I reckon if we don't let him speak soon, he's going to take off.
Where's Davra and Coldfire? And if we have to bargain with you for that knowledge, what do you want? Because I need to know. And I need to know, like, now. Where is he? Where's my master?
The simple thing is, I can't 100% answer that question. I can get you some of the way, but I can't get you all of the way.
What do you mean?
Davra and Coldfire is why I'm here. Originally, it's why I'm here. I sometimes work contracts. Archaeology doesn't pay a huge amount of money, so I occasionally take contracts from certain people to research things for them. And there was someone from the Rebel Alliance called Fulcrum who was interested in finding where Jedi who might have escaped what happened, where they went to ground. I got a hot tip about 3 months ago that someone called Davra and Coldfire had come here. And in fact, he has come here. I can tell you that for certain, he has come here.
He's here?
I don't know if he still is here, but he has been here. I found his ship.
You found his ship?
Yep, it's about 3 hours that way. But wait, before you run off, little rabbit man. Because I can see you're about to. And you need to wait for all of the information before you start acting on it, because otherwise things end terribly, terribly badly. So yes, I came here, and I found his ship, and I found his tracks, leading to an old Jedi temple to the south.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't access it. I found his tracks going in, but I never saw any coming out, and not seen any coming out since.
Right.
I've been here 2 months now, so I can't tell you where he is, because the simple thing is, I know he went in there. From that point onwards, I don't know.
So we need to get in the temple then?
Yes.
Right, okay. How do we get in the temple?
I don't know. If I could get in the temple, trust me, I would have been in there all over the...
Are you a user of the Force?
And you can see there is suddenly a flash of something, so I am not.
Maybe I can get in then.
Would you take me with you?
See, this is what I was thinking before. Whilst I don't think we'd be willing to sell the orb, if we do find Davra and Coldfire, would you like to go with us somewhere on our ship with the orb and study it with Lassa here? Would that be okay, Lassa?
We can share some information. I can tell you what it won't tell you, because I've run a load of tests on it already.
We have a spare bunk. It means you get to investigate it. It means Lassa also gets to investigate it because she's very interested in it.
I do have my own ship to think about. It is here, and I don't want to abandon it. It's pretty much all I have. So I can't...
Understandable.
Yeah, I can't abandon that here for some smuggler or pirate to come in and...
If we find him, then maybe we can stay here. If not, maybe we can talk about where we're going.
There's a temple for us to study.
Yeah.
I would like to give that a go.
Well, let's see if we can get in.
Yeah, we're talking about that, but what we're talking about is... So, do you have a qualification in any of this? No, didn't think so. But a joint research project with this lovely lady would be a fantastic endeavour.
Yes, I would certainly be very much.
I'm only talking about potential things we could be doing. Let's get the coordinates and go to the Jedi Temple, shall we?
I think you should know a little bit more about the history of this place. I have been studying the history of this place. You should probably know about it before you start running in anywhere. Once again, know all the information before you start.
Could not agree more. Lasser is really clearly siding with this person about, yes, a bit of research, we'll go and study it. We won't charge in headlong, but we will definitely investigate. She's almost palling up. You can see her shifting a bit closer and having a bit more cup of tea and going, oh, this is going to be a good plan. I like this.
It might be to Lasser's surprise then that she finds Agatha is nodding along as well as in agreement.
Well, it'll be smashing. Plus, if we all go research it together, we'll have absolute brains, people who are good with technology to be able to see if we can get any readings out of this thing. Someone who might have a little bit of know-how with the Force to see how things feel. Because you haven't been outed yet, she's not... She catches your eye, but she's not letting everybody know that. Plus, I'm sure it'd be lovely for Agatha to spend time with some of his own people. It must have been years.
Yes.
I'm sure it has been.
And at that point, eyes lock, and this is probably not impressed on from that.
You see what I mean? You just can't shut him up when you get him started, can you? Let the poor woman get a word in edgeways, Agatha, honestly.
Pajak, we are going to go, but there's no point in rushing in and ruining our chance.
Now now we have an objective in sight. We need to survey the battlefield. We need to make plans. We need to identify the enemy combatants. We need to make sure we have our ingress and egress sorted. We need a general. Then he kind of shakes his head, and there's a bit of a twitch. It's like an involuntary tick, and then he kind of forces himself to his feet, even over with Agatha's hand on his shoulder, and goes, I'm going to go and sit in that corner over there because I need to meditate. I am no good to anyone like this, and my master wouldn't want to see me without being in control. And he walks quite robotically over to the other side of the mess hall, pulls himself up on one of the tables, and drops remarkably gracefully, given that he's wearing full laminate, into essentially a lotus position, which is the position that he's been teaching you all how to meditate in. Closes his eyes and just seems to start meditating.
He is very unwell, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he really misses his master, and this is the first bit of hope he's had in years. To be honest, I think he was doing much better before it was mentioned that they might be alive.
I don't know. He's been teaching us about the Force. He's been telling me what to do. I am new to these powers, pretty much. And his mind is not entirely his own. He has cracked and had outbursts that have become quite violent. I worry about him.
I don't think he's going to find the answers that he wants.
I know. That's the thing about obsession. You never find exactly what you want.
You do find an answer.
Mostly you just find questions.
And then you keep going because you're obsessed as you eventually find answers.
Not knowing is infinitely worse than not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah, but listen to the poor fella. He's talking as if he already does know what he's going to find and how his master can't see him like this when we find him. He's already expecting us to find him. And I really, really hope he doesn't get proven wrong on that fact. It's going to break his little heart.
An answer is better than a mystery. Always.
And his little brain.
We'll deal with that when it happens.
This planet was strip mined by the Empire. This is a Kyber planet. And a lot of the Kyber that was taken out of it did end up in the Death Star.
You can't hear it because it's a podcast, but Jiren's kind of... It froze him completely. It's like, okay.
This planet has history, and if you are open to the Force, you should be prepared for that. Getting into this temple, you should be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
The Force here has been twisted. It has been hurt. Kyber are focuses of the Force, and for it to have been that heavily dismantled, it will be wounded.
It's something we've seen before. Everywhere we go, seemingly, the Force has been broken.
I have a concern.
Yes, you always have concerns.
So, if the Empire has been here to gather things,
yes,
then one of two things have happened. Either they have chosen a clumsy and brutal contractor to take what they want and leave.
Yeah.
Or they have been thorough, and they will be dangers and traps laid for anyone coming to the temple.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hope for the former.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be worse in some ways.
But we should keep an eye out for... Let's assume it's a trap, okay?
Always. But I'm kind of hoping my family were involved, in which case this will have been done sloppily.
I wouldn't rule out the Jedi from leaving their own little traps and things for the Empire to have stumbled in, so we might have a double whammy of the temple protecting itself and the Empire trying to stop people from ever getting through those original defences and finding out stuff they don't.
It's a useful way of getting rid of want-to-be Jedi.
Okay.
So, day trip then? You can fill us in on the way, I'm sure. There must be so much to talk about.
Oh, there is so much on this planet. The traditions here are quite incredible. And
Larsa, I do need half an hour of your time.
Alright.
How quickly are we going to this? Because among other things, you've still got one arm. Did we be looking for a medical bay as well?
I don't think we have the time. It's fine. It'll be okay.
For a guy who had...
looking over at Pyjack.
Yeah, Jiren nods over
Apart
at
from
Pyjack.
that.
No, I don't think we can.
Looking at the coordinates, it shouldn't take too long to get there. Shall we take the Coldfire?
Can we land near, or do we need to walk?
you need to walk. There are too many crystal outcroppings to be able to land a ship of that size safely.
Okay.
Are there still Kuiper crystals here that are mineable, or did they take everything?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not a miner, unfortunately.
It's all right.
See, I'm a theologian, not a miner, so not a geologist.
Just wondered whether you'd come across any.
Not that I've noticed.
Those people connected to the Force may find crystals easier, for crystals call out. That's how far I'm
getting a little bit mystic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Shall we go
Welcome to religion.
Shall we go back to the ship and tool up?
Yeah. When we get there, what will we find? What is the what is the situation where you can't get past?
I can't open the door,
Giant,
dear boy.
Big doors, small door?
Big doors.
Right.
But they are sealed to those who are not strong with the Force.
Runes on the door, anything like
Yes.
that? Yeah, okay.
Mystics.
I think we can open a door.
If we go to the temple and break down the door, all we will find in there is violence.
I'm not saying we do it quickly.
I think I might know a way. Or I think I might know a way of finding a way.
Shall I tell you what we need to do? And I'm only guessing, because I'm not a scholar, regardless of what Thrall says. I am a man who has been around places.
Don't put yourself down, Jason.
Yes, we go to the door and we ask if we can come in.
Yes.
That's it. And it'll let us in or it won't.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
If anyone can charm a door, it's you.
I can certainly ask. We will see.
I'm just going to lock up this ichor orb so it's here when we get back.
I do have a safe.
Massive, so she locks it in her box and keeps the key with her, then puts it in your safe.
As you go to leave the hab block across to where Vitaara is set up and where her safe is, you suddenly double take, because standing perfectly still in the open area is a droid. It is pushing 8 foot tall. It is massively built. Its hands are like shovels, but with very, very long, thin fingers that seem to be able to lock together to dig and then open back up. It's a strange configuration. It has like a back plate that is currently slightly open, and from this back plate, swung out on its shoulder, tracking around, is the biggest blaster rifle you have ever seen. And it's just standing there, perfectly still, watching you walk out. And then when Vitaara joins you, it nods its head and says,
"The perimeter is secure, mistress."
Thank you, Deet.
"You're very welcome. You have friends."
I certainly have visitors, yes.
"Hello, visitors. I hope you mean my mistress no harm. I don't want to fall out."
And it smiles, and its gun then starts tracking you.
That was very creepy, Deet. Thank you.
"You're welcome.
Nice to meet you, Deet.
Nice to meet you too, small human."
You're an average-sized human.
I am an average size.
I think you're a little taller than a normal human.
"You're small to me."
It's a common trait amongst my family. We're a little bit taller than normal.
"Oh, I'm sorry. Mistress, I remember. It's very impolite to draw attention to people's heights. It is nice to meet you, human."
It is nice to meet you, droid.
Well done, Deet.
It puffs its chest back a little bit.
I think we've made a breakthrough. At least one today. This is great.
That is one heck of a droid.
Oh yeah, he's a sweetie.
I love it. It's the kind of person you meet with a giant snarling Alsatian going, "Oh, he's a teddy bear, really."
Yes, that's K67DT, but I call him Deet.
"She calls me Deet."
He was once a security droid.
I was.
But we managed to repurpose him so he can do all sorts of things now.
I was very enthusiastic before, and even more so now. I like to help.
That is a very secure security droid, isn't it? Look at the size of the guns on that.
Talking of guns, Larsa, before we go anywhere, can you fix the gas compensator on my rifle?
Oh, alright, I'll have a quick look at this. So while we're all gathering our academic texts and data slates and stuff like this, I will sit down and potter with his gun.
And Lasse, while you're doing that, can I just have that power source you have on your belt? We need to power up these data slates. If you're going to take a bit of time, we'll spend a bit of time doing useful things too.
Oh, yeah, sure. He passes it over.
It's a difficulty 3 mechanics test, please.
Haha.
I'm going to give you 2 boost die because you're in your workshop with all of your useful essential bits.
Alright, so that's difficulty 2 you said, so 2 purple.
Difficulty 3.
Oh, 3 purple.
3 purple.
Alright, this should be a daddle. 1 success and 1 advantage.
Yeah, it's fixed. It's not quite good as new because it never will be, but you've managed to replace the broken bits, you've reinforced the frame, it will fire as well as it always has, and in fact what you have done is, because you had to kind of pump it a few times and get the blaster gas working, the first shot that fires will do +1 damage because it's overcharged for the first shot, just because that's the nature of the beast really. While you're doing that, Jiren and Agatha with the power sources and the data slates?
Essentially what I'd like to do is show Vitaara the data slates that we found on the ship, but they were out of power, so just power them up and say, these are the things we found on the Costa Fabarum. Seeing as we're going to be a little bit of time, I thought you might want to...
oh, excellent. Yeah. And she opens them immediately, sort of sits down on a chair and starts scanning through.
Agatha will have been gathering Pyjack rather than data slates necessarily because we need him along.
As you kind of go to wake him up, he opens his eyes and goes, are we leaving this moment?
We're leaving soon.
Wake me when soon is now.
Okay.
And he closes his eyes again. He stopped shaking, and that tension, that rigidity in his body has eased off. But he doesn't look at peace. Even though he's clearly deep in a bit of a meditative focus, he is not at peace. He is not rested. He is not relaxed. He is just slightly less keyed up. You know, he's not rocking back and forth, but he's certainly not astrally projecting.
Agatha was going to be sitting meditating next to Pyjack, partly to try and calm down and try and take his attention off the fact he's still feeling quite wounded, partly just to Pyjack isn't on his own.
He does seem to appreciate that. As you kind of cross your legs and settle in next to him, he does seem to relax a little bit. It is clear that your presence nearby is soothing some of his anxieties, just knowing that you're there, that you're still there supporting him. Clearly, it means a lot to him, and you can tell that from the way he relaxes, because he does kind of open his eyes a little bit as you're settling in, and then his posture loosens up a little bit more as he returns to his meditative focus. For you meditating, this is a good place, actually. It's calm, it's quiet, it's out of the way, it's very peaceful, it's very still, and you do feel yourself a little bit more at peace, I imagine.
Agatha's there partly because I think Pyjack's the one he's probably bonding closest with of more, partly because he knows how violent and surprisingly violent Pyjack can be from the end of season 1.
Yes.
And he was also held vigil while they were travelling through hyperspace the first time around.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment he's leaning on that kinship, but also the fact that Pyjack is closest to being able to absolve himself of some of his fears.
Yeah.
Where Agatha's still in a fearful space,
yeah,
and he's trying to come out of it.
Seeing those two sitting down together, I turn to Vitaara and say, do you mind if I just go and...
She is absolutely engrossed in the data slates. She barely even registers.
Am I right in thinking that Agatha still looks fairly beaten up?
Agatha still looks fairly beaten up.
Okay. Without saying a word, Jiren's going to walk very calmly and quietly up to where they're meditating. And very softly, he's going to place his hands on Agatha's shoulders and close his eyes and kind of take in a little bit of the calm that they're doing. He's not sitting down to meditate with them. He's not going into a trance with them, but he's just feeling the calm off them. And he's basically letting it wash through him and pushing a bit of his own force back into Agatha. And he's just going to see... Essentially, he wants to see how Agatha's feeling, and if he can feel the calm, he's going to focus that to try and heal him a little bit.
Okay. Would you like to make a force heal check for me?
Yeah. I am going to use knowledge as power, because this is a point where, nice and calm.
Yep.
Well, Agatha's trying to be calm. It's, not necessarily working, but there's been a lot keeping her agitated for a while.
There's a fair bit of dark side in this room, but there's also a little bit of light side. I got 2 dark side and 1 light side off that, which kind of makes sense to how he feels that Agatha is feeling. There's a lot of turmoil in there. He hasn't slept well. There's a lot of torment in what's happened before. He's going to sift through these emotions, pull out the bits that he feels is important, and push back into you to help you calm and maybe heal while you meditate. So that will give you 3 wounds back.
Okay.
And you feel a lot better when you come back out of it. And without saying a word, he lifts his hands off, opens his eyes, and goes back to sit near Vitaara. Not saying anything, not distracting Vitaara from anything, but goes back to sit and watch you work. I like when people work. I can watch it all day.
Whilst I'm waiting, I would like to go and meditate.
Okay.
And I'd like to prep myself, because I suspect I'm about to use sense shortly. If you see what I mean. So I just want to tune myself.
Spiritually cleanse yourself a little.
Yeah, and try and get a sense of the world.
Okay. Okay, you settle down in your bunk room. I presume that's where you're meditating?
Yep.
You close your eyes, you open yourself up, and make me a sense power check, please.
And I've rolled 2 dark side points. Yay.
Okay, so before I ask you whether or not you're going to tap into that power, I'll kind of give you a feeling of the air around here. Okay, this planet is a wounded animal. It has been defiled, and it is angry at that. And that is the main... Before you can even start to cast your mind and hunt down the lives and the feelings and the emotion of those nearby, you've got to push through that barrier of pain. And it's very odd, because planets feel things in a very different way. You know, like when you walk into a room and you can feel that the room feels odd. It's that kind of... You can't quite put your finger on it, but there is that feeling there before you can even start to tap into the Force. Are you looking at spending those dark side points?
I am not. Instead, I come out of the meditative trance with like a feeling of trying to fix something or trying to do something right, because this has been... I don't know how to fix a planet. And then find Prinkle.
Yep, Prinkle is in the galley. He's cleaning up at the moment.
Hello, Oberon, my friend.
How are you feeling?
Oh, magnificent. I'm feeling very well.
Good.
Oh, would you care for some tea?
I would like some tea.
Then I will put on the kettle. Would you care for me to mind the orb?
So, no.
Okay.
Not at this moment. We're going to learn more about that source of power.
Can I come? I would like to know more about this source of power.
Yes.
He smiles disarmingly.
If you want to come, I think it might help.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Oh.
I want him where I can see him, to be honest. He should come with us.
I know, I think him being in his own place, away from them, away from... I know, let's drag him into the danger.
I then sit down with Prinkle and...
Prinkle, as you kind of sit down near him, is like...
Okay. So you want me to stand guard over you while you do your whole pray sleep thing?
No.
He brandishes his broom like a lightsaber, stands very proud.
This is my broom. I will defend you, my friend.
If you're going to come with us...
Yes.
You'll need to focus. Let me... And I take him through the basic steps.
Okay.
And he kind of puts the broom down. He drops cross-legged opposite you, and you lead him through kind of the guided meditation, the breathing exercises. And you see some of that mania that's been gripping him kind of ease off. Will you make me a leadership test?
Oh dear. I mean, I will. What's my difficulty?
It's going to be, I think, 2 purple. But I'm going to give you a boost die because he trusts you.
Ah, that's nice. I'm about to be messing things up.
Not yet. I've not flipped a dark side point.
Oh, can I spend a light side point?
You can if you want. Yeah.
The last one we've got.
I think it's worth it for Prinkle.
You think maybe we shouldn't use it at the temple?
Yeah, maybe we'll need to use it at the temple. Okay. Poor Prinkle. Oh well, poor Prinkle.
Regardless, I get the feeling it must have Prinkle wherever he is.
Oh yeah.
I get 3 successes and 1 advantage.
Yeah, the mania that he's been exhibiting seems to fade, and he seems a lot more at peace. And then, after about 20 minutes or so, which is coming close to the time that you'd allowed, as Lasser is finishing off your rifle and presumably comes to find you, Lasser?
Yeah, right. I'll come and hand it over.
You kind of both wake up and Prinkle's a lot calmer.
Are you absolutely sure you want to come? It will be quite dangerous and quite weird.
You know better than me about the dangers out there, Oberon. Where do you want me? Guarding the ship or guarding you?
I'd rather you guarded the ship.
Is Pyjack going with you?
Pyjack is going with us.
Then it might be for the best. Me and Tugger will safeguard the Mercy. Keep it safe ready for when you get back.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend.
I tell you what, Brinkle, if you check in my drawer, there's some special chocolate flavour covered biscuits.
But not real chocolate. It's very bad for Chadrafan.
No, it's chocolate flavour, as if I could afford real chocolate.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, my friend.
You just come out, he's frothing at the mouth going, we need a vet or a medic, I'm not sure.
Don't poison the tea maker.
Okay, you gather back up outside of the hab block. Dieter is still standing guard. He waves cheerily as you all file back into the hab block. Vitaara is there studying the data slates.
Completely and utterly distracted.
I think we're ready to go.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
They'll be here when we get back.
I'll just put them in the safe just in case.
Good
because, just in case.
Yep, you put them in the safe.
And scurries around, putting on goggles, so quite hefty outerwear.
As you're putting things away, the little floating droid extends a little pair of pincers and grabs some overhead ear protectors and flies them over to you and drops them in your hand. And
thank you, Sally.
The droid beeps.
Pretty sure Sally's been recording the entire session and hasn't stopped at all yet.
Yeah.
Agatha will reach a hand over to Pyjack, sort of to squeeze it and wake him up because we are moving now.
We're going now.
We are.
Thank you, my friend. And he puts a hand on your shoulder, gives you a squeeze, then stands to his feet. He's lost a lot of that jitteriness now. He's seeming a lot more in control and cold, almost. Professional.
Okay.
That anxiety that had been carving lines in his face since you found out has died off a little bit. He looks ready. Vitaara leads you out away from the camp, through some of the canyons nearby, and then down into some tunnels. And these tunnels are lined with glittering crystals that capture the light coming from the opening of the cave mouth and transmit that light all the way down through these tunnels. So you're walking in a strange, diffuse, whitish light the entire way you walk. You head down, there's quite a few twists and turns, there's a few areas where you kind of have to hop over cracks in the floor, and you enter a big cave, massive. And in the centre of this cave are a set of doors carved out of the living stone, with runes emblazoned in the doors, lined with what look like maybe powdered crystal, because they also are catching the light. And as you enter the cave, those runes start to glow very, very faintly.
Did that happen last time you were here?
No, it did not. So I think I can say that it's working.
Okay. I'll walk up and you follow on. He starts walking in his usual reckless, let's see what happens way.
You cross the cave.
Yep.
Nothing happens. You get to the door. The doors are closed.
Mm-hmm.
Oberon follows. I put my hand on the door.
At the same time, Duran does.
The door feels very slightly warm, and you can feel like a rhythmic pulsing sensation. Not quite a heartbeat, because that makes it feel creepy, but like that kind of very faint rhythmic pulsing, and it's in tune with your own body.
Begin to breathe, so my tempo is its tempo.
Yeah, and its tempo is ours, and we'll just, using some of the knowledge we've had from Pyjack, just being calm and just trying to connect with it as if it was meditating with us.
I would like to attempt 4C, to see a path when this was opened before, to navigate through.
Strangely, that avenue of the Force is closed to you. It's probably quite unsettling for Oberon, because it's like you've suddenly lost a sense. And then you realise, as you're kind of examining that sensation in your own head, that the pathway that you feel when you walk down the road of the future, that sensation is what's behind this door. And that's why you can't find your own path, because it's lost amongst thousands and thousands of similar paths. You can feel this pulsing energy, and it's building, but it's not quite there yet. You feel that it's still missing a key, maybe two keys.
Yeah. Duran doesn't take his hand off the door, realises that he can't beckon people, because he's on. But there's literally I should call people over, but he's not thinking about it, and it's odd. It's kind of
there is an echo, just suddenly like a mirage, of Duren's right arm beckoning Lassa and Agatha to join him by the door.
No, that ain't natural.
Agatha looks probably to Pyjack for a moment to see whether he's, or for that matter to Lassa to see whether they saw it too, and then starts walking towards the door.
Pyjack hasn't reacted.
Lassa's done a big sigh. You can just hear her mumble, "Mystics," and then goes over to the door. She gives it a quick scan with her hand scanner to see.
It's some form of stone, local, indigenous, possibly like some form of granite. Is that kind of similar?
And then she kind of looks at what these two are doing, closes her eyes, does another big huff and sigh, puts her hand on the door.
You again feel that vibration, and it's stronger.
Agatha's been far less dramatic about it, but nevertheless joined the other three.
Agatha walks over, puts his hand on the door, and that vibration, that resonance increases. And then, with a grinding creak and falling of dust, the doors begin to open. And that's where we're ending this episode. Before we go, thanks again to Lou for joining us around the table for Vitaara.
Thanks, Lou. It's always amazing.
Thank you.
And this episode's patron is Tristan. Tristan has asked not for all the bells and whistles, so thank you very much, Chief. It's really appreciated. Glad you're on board. Glad you're enjoying the show. Thank you.
Tarbrov.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We shall see you all next time. Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.